Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. To me, it was amusing. The more and more the reason why we used to have the covering of the tables go to the floor, but then I couldn't see your feet wiggle. And that's a sign of nervousness, just like laughing is a coping mechanism. And then we didn't have any coverings on the table, so I could see everybody. So then I could go right back to Persia back there because I could see him wiggling around and humiliate him, which was the way the military used to be trained up until about 25, 30 years ago. And now the SEAL team and the Rangers stuff are just about the only left, and they're not really like they used to be. Now they let you go home on the weekends and fuck. Anyway. And so then we used to, the scores that I showed you yesterday where, you should be in an insane asylum and shit like that. We used to go through them in great detail. And then we used to go through the report that we haven't got to yet in great detail. And then we measured the results, and they got worse. They didn't get better. Because you can't stand the truth. You just can't. And like in management, it's easier to start tough and loosen up than start loose and toughen up. It's impossible. Start loose and tough. It's just not. It doesn't work. Doesn't it? Just like when I make fun of the Scots by talking like an illiterate, it doesn't work. Because like I said the first day, you're wired to be not unwired. Psychotherapy, or what it's now, is not the way Freud started it. Now it's the therapist more or less sits there until you figure out what to say and talk. You can sit for an hour and nobody says anything. And the psychotherapy started when you rip the shit out of them, i.e. tough love, tough therapy. And that's not how it is anymore. It isn't. When I was 17 years old, one of my dad's friends was a guy, a world-renowned psychiatrist named Dr. James Jacobs, Englishman, who went to Oxford, he went to Cambridge, Oxford and Columbia Medical School. He was and he used to donate his time to the police department and the fire department. It would be kind of equivalent to the first responders that get, see a lot of shock and awe stuff. And and he liked me, and for whatever reason, because he said I could see, in current language, I could see things like an adult even though I was a kid. That's more or less. But it's like the backward bike. Even though it's only been ridden once, with my kids years ago, the idea of knowing that the backward bike is there and that we're wired wrong is the closest I can get, or I've been able to get so far. Maybe there's another methodology that I'll discover before I hang it up, that to show you can't get unwired. So everything that we do, we're just using Band-Aids for cancer. Yeah. I'm not gay, and I have no proclivity towards that end of the continuum, but the gay friends that I have, it's like I can't help it. That's just it. That's just it. And of course now LGBT and all the things so powerful, and all the various shades of the colors they use, but that's the closest, And a lot of people take a long time to come out of the closet. Some people never come out of the closet. That's their choice. Okay? Well, you're wired, I'm not talking, but you're wired like that to not do what you need to do to fulfill this program. Almost everybody that comes through. And, I love beating up parents about it, but I just read a note from a Hall of Famer. Up there, he's about a little smaller than you, and he's made a shit ton of money. And before he dies, he wants to be in a barroom brawl, the kind of where you break bar stools over your back and shit like that. And I said, Bill, you won't live through a barroom brawl. In a fantasy, the first time somebody hits you with a big beer mug and breaks a fucking chair over your back, you're dead. That's it. But that's his fantasy. That's his fantasy. And I don't see him anymore now. Now he bought an island someplace and he's got 400 or 500 women and he's like a concubine and all he does is do acid and fuck all day. There's no bars on the island as far as I know. But that's how you're wired. But that's how Peter was wired as well. He's still wired that way. His wiring hasn't changed. But instead of rubbing elbows with the poor people in his family, he now rubs elbows with the president of Hungary. To a different reality. Just as for whatever reason, it's not important why I did it, I was attracted to big, as my Japanese partners say, big fucking hitters. And I'm being racist when I say it. And most people, in fact, almost all the people that come to the seminar, why would that guy ever want to talk to me? And that's one of the first hurdles you got to get over vis-a-vis getting a chairman. You will naturally be, in your mind, directed away from the best people that will be your chairman. And because you're used to being engaged in self-sabotaging activity, you'll give the worst presentation to your best candidates. Because your subconscious knows that you're just a dingleberry on that guy's ass that he forgot to wipe. So that's why I tell you, and you don't follow me, because a couple of you have already built boards and they're all fucked up, okay? You go right to the big four or the big six accountants. You go right to, and I tell you start at the 300th largest accounting firm. You have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 150 presentations until you get it fucking right. But you don't do that. The few of you that are, and they're fucked up. I'm just telling you, I went back and reviewed your files again all your files before I went to sleep. All you that have board members should fire them today. And that's why we tell you not to start the fucking program. The couple of guys that are here, one guy for sure that was here, that when we closed it down, when the police came in and closed us down, I said, I'm going to give you the gigs, and I know I shouldn't. Remember? I'm going to give you this motherfucker because I may never give another seminar. Because, back in February, March, April, the war was going to end because of Corona. And I knew when I gave the motherfucker out. To date, nobody has really prospered from that group until they came back and unlearned the shit that they tried to do for the 2 years that have transpired between them being walked out by the police and me giving them the gigs. That's why, even though 99% of the people that have succeeded with the QLA model that I've never met, to the best of my knowledge, as I've said yesterday and the day before, there's no billionaires that I'm aware of. Unless I put my hands on you. Not in a sexual way, put my hands on you. No billionaires. We got a lot of guys that have made several $100 million because that's the special sauce from the seminar. Because I can get you not unwired, because the synapses are there. But for you, remember, it's not what they do to you, it's how you interpret what they do to you. And that's the special sauce that I believe is part of the actual experience of coming here and seeing the ambiance of what you can have. But Peter works on it every day. He has at least one coach that I know of, which is you'd call him a high-performance coach, to remind him every fucking day. Because he is an introvert pleaser, like many of you in this room. Not just this room, I mean every seminar room since May of 1993. It's just like psychopathic killers. They can be in prison 50 years and it doesn't change the wiring. Charlie Manson and guys like that. And the guys and the girls that succeed the most are the ones that do it the first, the fastest. And remember I said the people that win are the ones that stay focused the longest. Almost every one of these guys and gals up here do QLA training hourly, not daily. Hourly. We don't use, I think we're going to hear Roberto. Roberto says he starts out with breakfast by listening to me, and he listens to me all day long. Guys like the Carlines, their 14-year-old's been listening to me since he's 8 or 9 at breakfast on the way to school. You're going to hear the Goomba brothers today, I think. And their 10-year-old has been listening to me since he's 5. So a lot of the wiring that would happen from 5 to 10, they don't get. They get my wiring. But he's still exposed to their maid, their grandmother, which don't have that wiring. They have the other wiring. So on my website in 4 or 5 different places, I say words to the effect, and if you listen to the YouTubes like you tell me you do, and I know you don't, or if you listen to them, you're just, you're in a dream world, you're not paying attention to the words. The ones that succeed and make the most money are the ones that immerse themselves 100% of the time, the rest of their fucking life. And to some of you in this room, as in previous rooms, that's an abhorrent idea. Fuck, listening to Peña the rest of my fucking life? How bad do you want the money? Remember I said, and a couple of you looked kind of shocked and asked me questions, it's easy to get to the top. It's a cocksucker to stay there. And it is. I'm like this from the time I was thinking to myself this morning when I was brushing my teeth. And when I went to bed last night, there's not a 0.5% difference. Because my default is me. And for some people, that's so shocking. It's like, the kids that protested against me at the University of Exeter, that I was this, that, and the other thing, which is all. Now, some of the things they said were absolutely accurate. When I call somebody a dwarf, I'm not apologizing for it. When I say somebody, don't let the door hit you in the fat ass in the way, I'm not apologizing that he's a blimp or she's a blimp. Hey, saggy kids, come here. I'm never going to change. That's never going to fucking change. I'm like King Farouk or a pharaoh or something, I don't like your face. Cut his head off. I was born 1,500 years too late. But you're never going to, if you're an introvert today, you're going to be an introvert when you die. And I hate to say it, but if you're a cunt today, you're going to be a cunt the day you die. But there's ways of getting around and using QLA, even if you're a coward. Now, I know how you'd answer these questions. And I'm sad as a human being that you would answer them that way. But what's the failure rate again, EJ? Oh, he's not here. Cat 98? Yeah. Oh, yeah. and getting worse. So don't delude yourself that you're going to be a macho man now, or a macho gal, whatever the equivalent thereof. That's not going to happen. And and some people think that the reason why we've done so much better during Corona is some people say that have studied the YouTubes carefully that I've gotten 5 or 10 or 20% more candid. I can't get much more candid than I am, but during Corona, because I thought that they were, you're up against some, a pandemic and blah, 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 that I even got more honest than I was from before. I don't know. I have not gone back and studied, analyzed, and spreadsheeted, and they've got these machines now, you can test, the tone of your voice. I haven't done any of that shit. Unfortunately, some of you have. That's a waste of fucking time. Last night you saw who? Love doesn't matter. 0. I know him. I've talked to him. I tried to get him here. He tried to get me to the camp. He sold out to a big management campus thing. He does not know how to play tennis. And just think about you. Jobs didn't know shit about the finest, most successful tennis coach that ever lived, and he's at the end of his life cycle. Can't play fucking tennis. Now just think all the fucking time that you've spent trying to be better at your craft. Or down your mama's leg. I would have rather, if I were you, rolled down my mama's leg, because then I didn't waste 20, 30, 40, 50 years and then have to blow my brains out. Not everybody can blow their brains out. They say it's a coward's way out. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because I've seen blown out brains. If you've never seen blown out brains, maybe it's not a coward, maybe it is a coward's way out. But I'm telling you how it is. I'm not telling you how you'd like it to be. Comments about Nick? Yes, sir.
He started the academy when he was 47 years old. So most people would have given up on life and said, it's too late to make changes, this, that. But like he said later in the film.
How many of you are 47 or older in the room? Okay. Go ahead.
But like he said later in the film, there's no clock on your career. I think it was. Yeah, there's no clock on one's career.
He's 88 now, or whatever he is.
91.
91 now. I can't remember his 6 to 8 wives or whatever. And when I talked to him, I've talked to him a couple times. Not dissimilar when I called W. Clement Stone. See, I go see these fuckers. And he was such a cantankerous bastard. And his right-hand guy, who was the right-hand guy in that film, is still the right-hand guy. He says, excuse me, Mr. Peña, but he's like this all the time. I laughed like, yeah, I wasn't going to ask if he's like this just to me. He's like this all the time. And he still, berates people. But I met Ben Hogan years ago. At his club, Shady Oaks, I think it was, in Fort Worth. And I just played 18 holes, and I was sitting there with the 2 partners from PricewaterhouseCoopers at the time. And I said that, let's go and play 18 again. And and he said, I looked over the corner of my eye, and he said, that's Mr. Hogan. Well, what are we sitting here for? I mean, what the fuck? And he was just having, he used to have 3 martinis at lunch. And so, well, you want to have a drink? Well, absolutely. So we went over there and we sat down, and he said, what kind of clubs do you use, boy? And I knew the right answer. Hogan Club, sir. Just smiled. And then I asked him a couple of questions about guys that I met. Sam Snead. Snead was an asshole. And then we went through 3 or 4. All assholes. Arnold Palmer. No, he's not an asshole, but he's a prick. I went through every major guy that I had met personally. Every fucking one of them was an asshole or a prick. And he said, and then he kind of chuckled after 10 or 12 of them. I know why you're asking me this, kid. Yes, sir. You're right. We're all assholes. You can't get it to the top unless you're an asshole and at the very least a prick. My little ears are ringing. My eyes are sparkling. Would you like another drink, Mr. Hogan? We're having 3 now. Well, normally I have it. Sure, let's have another one, martini. I went out to watch him give a lesson to an aspiring, and she's around now, so I'm not going to tell her name, aspiring lady pro who won 6 or 7 majors. We went out to the driving range, and she hit 3 practice balls, and he said, you might make it, but you're not going to make it big time, sweetheart. I don't have time for you. Got in his golf cart and went back to the clubhouse. So he hit 3 practice balls and went back to the clubhouse. And that's how he was. And that's how they all are. And then we got you. What else about Nick? Yes, sir.
He gave no afterthought to the ramifications for his decision that didn't produce a desirable outcome. And he has no recollection of any failures or mistakes that he made.
Don't confuse me with the facts. I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. And they're all the same. They're all the same. What else about Nick? Yes, sir.
Like Boris Becker said, Nick was really a life coach, and he used tennis as a means to do this. And that was exemplified when Agassi was winning against Boris Becker, I think during Wimbledon. And then, Becker did what others were unwilling to do by, flirting with Brooke Shields. And then the game changed. Even though Agassi was superior in talent and technical competence, he lost the mental game, and that's really the important.
And Trump has said this in different ways, but success is just a mental game. And I agree. Of course, Boris is in jail now, going to jail for fraud, which is unfortunate because he's a big role model in Germany to the kids. What else about Nick? I could give you icons like this, the leading coaches, without exception, they're all assholes. Without exception. And you look up to them, a lot of them. And you should, because they're at the top of their game. And you're not even in the game. But up until about maybe 10 years ago, what I couldn't understand, and I realize it doesn't matter whether I understand, is why you never dug down past the first page of Google to see who they really were. Because you can't take the truth. You don't want to know how much different they are than you. That's why. Of course, the Gracias of Onassis group told me a long, long time ago, he says, there's rumors about people, being this, that, but those rumors weren't manufactured from thin air. There's some truth to every rumor. There's some truth. Where there's smoke, there is fire. But you don't want to know. You don't want to know. Because you know that more or less is the antithesis of your own personality. Yet you buy their books, you buy their this. I don't know why these guys, other than they're broke, why they fucking write books. Book 2 is not much different than book 1, and book 9 is not much different than book 3. It's because they need the money. That's why. And virtually all the guys and the few gals are the same. But this model, and the reason why that they immerse themselves 24/7 is because they have to keep reprogramming, because you can't change the spots on the, whatever, the leopard or whoever's got fucking spots. And you can't change your spots. It's not going to happen. And I would be a disingenuous old fuck if I told you it was. But you can't do 100% immersion, force yourself. It's like for those of you that play golf, the natural swing is unfortunately outside in and you slice the ball. That means the ball goes to the right. I don't give a fuck how many fucking lessons you take. That's the natural. Unless you learn how to roll your wrists or you learn how to bring the club head from inside out. Maybe 1 in 100 golfers can do that. I wasn't one of them. And I was a very good golfer. And now they've got the video and reality. I don't give a fuck. You're going to swing outside in. You're going to fade the ball. And, 85 or 90% of the golf pros playing professional golf, they say he's got a natural fade. That means he can't draw the ball. Well, you got to, an analogy would be for those that play golf, you have a natural snap hook. Means the ball goes like this into the fucking ground. And I don't give a fuck how many books you read, how many tapes you listen to, you're going to snap hook the motherfucker into the dirt. Then you get used to snap hooking it into the dirt. You get used to playing shitty golf. One of the things I say in the set, you have to learn to play shitty golf well. Because you're never going to play a good golfer. What are you smoking? Guys play golf. It's like psychotherapy, which I started with. Barbara Streisand and the little guy that supposedly married his 12-year-old daughter, Woody Allen, have both been in psychotherapy over 50 years. I'm told they used to have the same psychotherapist in New York. I don't know if that's true or not. You got to fact check that. 50 fucking years. Three times a week, both of them. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, if I remember correctly. Well, you can be in psychotherapy for 350 years. It's not going to change you. It's not going to change you. And the ones that succeed the most keep their speech coaches, continue to be active in Toastmasters, and do all the things that we tell you to do, but they do them for the rest of their lives. Being all you can be is a full-time deal. And I've never seen a high-performance person that wasn't full-time. I've never seen a part-time high-performance person. But the guys, I didn't bring in the emails. I got 2 more emails from people. It brings out, they remember to tell me what they've done. Which is terrific. It's terrific. I only did 80 million. I know that doesn't help 2.3 trillion much, but it doesn't really. I appreciate them telling me, though. More importantly, I appreciate that just because I'm at over trillions now, that they didn't stop. And sadly, when I stop doing this, even though it's all free, but there's not going to be new YouTubes. And you're going to go like this. Like a kamikaze pilot. But you're not going to hit the big battleship. You're going to hit the water. And you're going straight to the motherfucking bottom. And I know it. It's one of the reasons Sally says that I keep doing it. Because I don't want that to happen when I'm alive still. I don't give a fuck once I'm dead. But I know what's going to happen to you. Who are these guys going to call or write or email when I got a new this and I got another mansion and I got a new G6 or G9? Who are they going to send it to? My grave? I know, but I don't feel any guilt about it. Fuck you, pull up the gangplank. But it's our time right now, and I'm alive, well, and I'm energetic still. Anything else about Nick? Yes, sir.
So he was very focused on the future and the sort of the build-up. So once Agassi won Wimbledon, he was no longer interested in him, and he kind of moved on to the next thing. And that made me think of Steve Jobs and his lack of recognition of the importance of the Apple II. It was yesterday's news. He was looking for to the future.
I can relate to that. It's quite remarkable when you're around people like this that we're talking to. They're all different but the same, okay? They're the same in that their egos, you couldn't fit in this room. I was in a room once with Jobs and Gates. It was surprising they could both sit in the same boardroom. Literally. I've never been in the room with Warren and Bill Gates, but I'm told that Bill has deference to Warren, maybe because of his age, and I don't know. And there is a pecking order of these guys. There's a pecking order. Somewhat tied to age. But there's only a few real old guys like Warren. And they all pretty much, like they call him the Sage of Omaha or whatever they call him. And certainly at his AGM, that for sure. Now, this the test, when you look at it in black and white, by the way, we have people that take the test more than 200 times a month. That's all Google takes you to. Same fucking test 200 times. 200 times. Same answers. Say it again. 200 times, same answers. Because you're wired the way you're wired. There's only 3 yeses on the 16 questions, but you can't check them. Hard to believe, but true. Because self-sabotaging activities is wired into us. It wasn't wired into me. There's so little of it. But it's wired in. But when we're cognizant that it's wired in, and so it's like you get to a stoplight, and there's only a right or a left way. There is no through. And you want to drive through. And what happens when you drive through? You crash and burn. But you can't turn to the right and you can't turn to the left. And that's where many of you are in this room. Not just this room, but the rooms. And I bring all this out because I want you to know, one, that virtually everybody that comes here is almost exactly the same. Remember, 98% of the high-performance people that walk the planet are introverts. Zuckerberg, Gates, all these guys are introverts. Jobs was an anomaly. He was not an introvert. So, and 98% now, over 98%, answer the questions like you're, a tooth fairy or something. But you can still make a lot of money. You can still make a lot of money. Any questions about the testing? Not necessarily these 3 questions, but the testing. And at the end, when I say, are you tough enough? Which we added that question just for fun. And some people, even though they answered all like The tooth fairy, they say they are. They say they are. Because you can't take the truth. Now, in an emergency situation, it seems 75% of the people would rather pull their phone out and record versus stepping in. There's several slides here. 65 people on a train in New Jersey saw a poor young girl get raped. Nobody called 911. Nobody helped. I don't know. They all just watched. And I could give slides from now until the seminar is over, showing you example after example. Now, back in the saber-tooth tiger days, when you whacked a guy and took his woman and that kind of shit, and the saber-tooth tiger came into camp, flight or fight, okay? And now, in the last 240,000 years since we stood up, more or less, we've developed our flight modus operandi more than our fight modus operandi. And now we've got it down, the millennials got it down to perfection. They would rather flight, meaning run, as opposed to fight. And you've got all kind of good reasons. Oh, I don't want to get in trouble with the police. I'll go to jail. I'll go to this. I'll go to that. It'll be on my record. I won't be able to get a job. You know the reasons, right? That's all horseshit. What's really sad is when they're raping your daughter. Somehow, a lot of those reasons thankfully, fade, and you do something. On construction, they've got the siding. When you're building a building, they've got 2x12 boards and they've got scaffolding and shit. Okay. They don't have 1,000-pound notes anymore, $1,000 bills anymore. But let's just say that we're on a 2x12 here and it's only 2 feet off the ground. I could put $1,000 bills at this end of the platform. And most of you in this room, even the tubs of shit, could walk back and forth all day long and pick up $1,000 bills. A couple of you probably couldn't last more than a half an hour, even just walking, but $1,000 bills, right? Now you put this up 10 stories. Some of you could still walk on a 2x12 and pick up $1,000 bills. Now, I'm not going to add wind and rain and any of that shit. Okay. Now I put it up 100 stories. I don't think anybody in this room would walk, but I could certainly crawl and get the $1,000 bills, right? Gates and all those guys are up 1,000 stories. They don't know what risk is. Like I say, I can't remember the last time I lost. You can't remember the last time you won. My level of risk that I'm willing to take is significantly different than yours. Now, even though we're not supposed to have a favorite kid, for those of you that have kids, you always got a favorite. You always tell the kids, I love everybody the same, which is a fucking lie. And by the way, it's proven that you telling the kids that damages them. Because they know. Okay, so let's take your favorite kid. And let's take your wife or whoever produced that kid, whether it's a wife or not. And like in that little skit where my dad kicked in the door and shot this guy, executed him. He's got your 10 stories up, and that psycho's got your wife. He's going to set her on fire. Burn the bitch! I can get another wife. Now you got your favorite kid. You're going to think more seriously about how to get across there to save the kid. You still might not do it. Whereas a wife, a mother, will just run across there and not even think about it. You read a woman picked up a Volkswagen to save her kid. Or a father sat there with his thumb up his ass and thought about it. so that we still are capable of great acts of courage. But it's really got to be important to us. And normally, it's either your life or death or your favorite kid's life and death. Certainly not your spouse. And for those of you that have been married more than one time, you can relate. And for Nick, who's been married 6, 7, 8, whatever times he's been, he can even relate more. And as Peter said, the first night he talked to you guys, he said that, I'd rather be successful or dead. My wife either agreed or divorced. Most of you in this room, not just this room, most of you that come to the seminar, at least by the morning of the third day, which is now, haven't made that choice yet. But I'm here to say, if you haven't made that choice before you leave here, you're going to be one of the 6, 7, 8, 10, 15, well, we don't have a 15-year success. The two longest are 12 and 13 years. Because you'll think of another reason to procrastinate, to not make the decision. Because once you make the decision, once you draw the line in the sand, then you're making yourself accountable. And you don't want that. Heretofore, you don't want that. Your life has been, and that's why you continue to go to seminars, you continue to read books. These guys that tell you to read 2 books a day, or they say they read 2 books a day, it's such a fucking lie. But you listen to their podcasts, you buy their shit. It's such a fucking lie. And why do you, even if you don't believe it, you listen to it. And like a Chinese water torture, it's not the 50th or 500th or the 5,000th drop of water that makes you crazy. It's the 5 millionth drop that makes you crazy. So you inundate, instead of immersing yourself with somebody like me, and there's 4 or 5 guys that are pretty good, not as good as me, but you immerse yourself staying in your comfort zone. And instead of, one of the mantra of QLA is learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable the rest of your fucking life. Doesn't sound very, appetizing when you say it that way. But I know from 29 years experience and 51 and a half years experience, me personally, I never made any money when I was comfortable. I never did any great things when I was comfortable. I only did those great things when I was uncomfortable. And when you accept that emotionally, not intellectually it's easy peasy. When you accept that emotionally, every day it's now or never. Every day is life and death. Every single day. Every day is how do I make today better than yesterday? Every day is yesterday, the only easy day was yesterday. And I go through the cliches from now until, I turn 80.